I almost didn't go. That's the part that still makes me laugh, because if I had trusted my gut and stayed home that night, none of this would have happened. No awkward eye contact across a crowded gym. No shaking hands. No Joshua standing there like some unfinished chapter of my life that had decided it wasn't done with me yet. My 10-year high school reunion was held in the same gym where I used to eat lunch alone. They'd strung up cheap fairy lights along the basketball hoops and pushed round tables across the polished floor. There was a DJ playing throwback songs from our senior year, and a banner that said, Class of 20. Still got it like we were all pretending we weren't pushing 30. I stood outside in the parking lot for a solid 5 minutes before going in. I told myself I'd show up, say hi to a couple people, make an appearance for old time's sake, and leave within 30 minutes. That was the plan. Quick in, quick out. No emotional landmines. Because high school hadn't exactly been kind to me. Back then, I was the quiet kid. The one who kept his head down. I wasn't out, but I wasn't exactly convincing either. I had that softness I tried to bury. My voice, the way I moved, the fact that I cared too much about everything. It made me an easy target. And Joshua, he wasn't a bully. That would have been easier. He was worse. He was the golden boy, captain of the soccer team. Broad shoulders, stupid perfect smile, always surrounded by people. Teachers loved him. Girls adored him. Guys wanted to be him. And me? I existed somewhere on the edge of his world. We had English together junior year. Assigned seats. He sat behind me. For months, I could feel him there. His knee occasionally bumping my chair. His cologne drifting forward when he leaned in to talk to his friends. I don't think he ever said a single mean thing to me. He just never saw me, which somehow hurt more. There were days I'd rehearse conversations in my head. Smart things I could say. Jokes that might make him laugh. But whenever I turned around, he was already mid-conversation with someone cooler, someone louder, someone who mattered more. By senior year, I stopped trying. So yeah, the idea of walking into a room full of people who remembered me as that quiet guy didn't thrill me. But I went anyway. I adjusted my jacket in the car mirror, took a breath, and walked in. The music hit first, then the smell of cheap wine and nostalgia. People were already laughing too loudly, hugging like they'd survived a war together. I spotted a few familiar faces. Some had aged well, some looked exhausted, some looked exactly the same. I grabbed a drink just to have something to do with my hands. Andre. I turned, heart jumping before I even registered who said it. It wasn't him, just Melissa from math class. We did the polite catch-up thing. Jobs, cities, that can you believe it's been 10 years? Routine. I smiled, nodded, laughed in the right places. 15 minutes in, I checked my phone. Maybe I could leave at 20. And then I felt it. You know that weird sensation when someone's looking at you? Like your body registers it before your brain does. I glanced up, across the gym, and there he was, Joshua. He was standing near one of the high tables, sleeves of his button-down rolled up, a glass in his hand. Older, obviously, broader, a little rougher around the edges, but still unmistakably him. Except this time, he wasn't laughing with a group. He wasn't surrounded by people. He was looking directly at me, and he didn't look surprised. He looked like he'd been waiting. I froze. For a split second, I considered pretending I hadn't seen him, turning away, leaving, sticking to the plan. But then he started walking toward me, not casually, not distracted, straight toward me. My pulse kicked up, stupid and uncontrollable. I hated that after all these years, my body still reacted like this. Like I was 17 again, sitting in that stupid desk, wishing he'd notice me. He stopped a few feet away. Andre. Hearing my name in his voice did something weird to my chest. It was deeper now, rougher, less boy, more man. Joshua, I said, trying to sound steady. Up close, I noticed things I wouldn't have back then. The faint line between his brows. The way his smile didn't quite reach his eyes. A scar near his jaw I didn't remember. You came, he said. It was such a simple sentence. But there was something in it. Relief? Nerves? Yeah, I replied lightly. Thought I'd make a quick appearance. You? He huffed a soft laugh. Same. We stood there for a second, the noise of the room blurring around us. You look different, he said. I raised an eyebrow. That's usually code for something. He shook his head quickly. No, I mean good. You look good. There it was. The thing I'd wanted to hear for 4 years straight. And now it landed differently. Not like validation. Not like triumph. More like confusion. Thanks, I said. You too. He glanced around the room like he was checking something, then looked back at me. Can we talk? He asked. It wasn't casual. It wasn't reunion small talk. It was direct. Intentional. Talk, I echoed. Yeah, like, actually talk. My stomach tightened. 10 years ago, I would have followed him anywhere without question. Now I wasn't sure I wanted to open whatever door that was. But before I could answer, he added quietly, I owe you something. And just like that, leaving in 20 minutes wasn't an option anymore. I owe you something. Out of all the things I expected Joshua to say to me after 10 years, that wasn't one of them. I let out a small, disbelieving laugh. You sure you've got the right Andre? His jaw tightened just slightly. Yeah, I do. There was a seriousness in his eyes that didn't match the loud music and cheap reunion vibe around us. It made everything else fade a little. Okay, I said carefully. Talk. He glanced toward the exit. Not in here. Of course not. I hesitated for maybe half a second before nodding. Fine. We walked out together, past clusters of people who barely noticed us. The cool night air hit my face the second we stepped outside. The parking lot was dim, lit by a few flickering lamps. My car sat 3 rows down. His truck, because of course he drove a truck, was parked near the entrance. He didn't lead me to it, though. He just stopped near the side of the building, far enough that we wouldn't be overheard. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Up close, without the noise and lights, this felt more real, more dangerous. You look like you're about to confess to a crime, I said, trying to lighten it. He exhaled through his nose. Maybe I am. That made my stomach drop. Joshua, I said slowly, what is this about? He rubbed a hand over the back of his neck, an old nervous habit I actually remembered. I used to watch him do that in class before presentations. I was a jerk to you, he said finally. I blinked. You weren't. His eyes snapped to mine. Yeah, I was. You never said anything to me. That's the point. I frowned slightly, confused. You didn't bully me. I ignored you. The words landed heavier than I expected. I shrugged. You ignored a lot of people. Not like I ignored you. There was something in the way he said it that made my pulse stutter. Okay, I said cautiously. Then why? He held my gaze for a long second, like he was deciding how honest to be. Because I knew, he said quietly. My chest tightened. Knew what? He swallowed. That I felt something. Everything in me went still. The night sounds, the distant music from inside, cars passing on the road, felt like they were happening in another universe. You felt something, I repeated. For you, Joshua, I said carefully. You had a different girlfriend every semester. I know. You were the straightest guy in that building. I know. I let out a breath, half laugh, half disbelief. And now you're telling me you had a crush on me? His jaw flexed. It wasn't a crush. The way he said that sent heat up my neck. Then what was it? I asked. He took a step closer. Not enough to invade my space, but enough that I could see the tension in his shoulders. It was, every time you spoke in class, I'd stop listening to everyone else, he said. Every time someone made a joke about you being quiet or weird, I'd feel this anger I didn't understand. I swallowed. You never defended me. I couldn't, he snapped, then immediately softened his tone. I couldn't. I was barely holding myself together as it was. He looked away for a second like he hated admitting that. My dad. He paused, exhaling sharply. Let's just say being anything other than exactly what he expected wasn't an option. I didn't respond. I knew that kind of house, that kind of pressure. So instead, he continued, I did the easiest thing. I acted like you didn't exist. The honesty in his voice made it hard to breathe. You think that was easier for me? I asked before I could stop myself. His eyes flicked back to mine. You have any idea what it felt like sitting in front of you for a year? I said, my voice quieter now. Feeling like I was invisible? He flinched. I used to hope you'd drop a pen, just so I'd have an excuse to turn around, I admitted. That's how pathetic I was. You weren't pathetic. I was 17 and in love with a guy who didn't even know I was alive. The word hung there between us. Love. Joshua's breathing shifted slightly. You think I didn't know you were alive? He asked. I held his gaze. You never once looked at me the way you're looking at me right now. His voice dropped. Because if I had, I wouldn't have been able to stop. My heart slammed against my ribs. We were standing too close now. I hadn't even realized we'd both inched forward. Joshua, I said carefully, this is 10 years too late. I know. Then why now? He hesitated. Because I saw your name on the RSVP list, he admitted. And I've been thinking about this night for 3 months. My stomach flipped. I didn't even know if you'd come, he continued. But I told myself if you did, I wasn't going to waste another chance. Another chance. I shook my head slightly, trying to steady myself. You don't just get to walk back into my life because you finally figured yourself out. I'm not asking you to make this easy for me. Then what are you asking? He looked at me in a way that made everything feel exposed. I'm asking for 5 minutes, he said quietly, to see if what I felt back then is still there. The air between us felt charged, heavy. And if it is, then I'm not ignoring you this time. My brain was screaming at me to walk away. 10 years is a long time. Long enough to build walls. Long enough to convince yourself you've moved on from the boy who never looked at you twice. And yet here I was, standing in a half-lit parking lot, my pulse pounding. 5 minutes, I repeated, buying myself time. He nodded once. That's it. You don't get to rewrite high school. I'm not trying to. You kind of are. He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. Andre, I can't change who I was at 17. I was scared. I was angry. I was confused. And you were... He hesitated. I was what? I challenged softly. You were the only person who made me question everything. That hit harder than it should have. You barely spoke to me. Exactly. I frowned. If I talked to you, he said, voice tight. If I let myself, it would have been obvious. I already felt like people were watching me half the time. My dad was obsessed with making sure I was focused. Soccer, grades, girls. The image. So you chose the image. I chose survival. There was something raw in the way he said that. Not defensive. Just honest. And what about me? I asked. Did I factor into that at all? His eyes darkened. Every day. The answer was immediate. I'd go home and replay every second of English class, he continued. The way you'd tuck your hair behind your ear when you were nervous. The way your voice shook the first time you had to read out loud. My throat tightened. You noticed that? I noticed everything. The confession made my knees feel weak. And that scared me, he said quietly, because I didn't look at anyone else like that. For a second, I couldn't speak. All those afternoons I'd felt invisible. All those nights I'd wondered if I imagined the tension. You could have said something, I whispered. To you? Yes. And risk you rejecting me? He gave a humorless laugh. You were the one person I couldn't handle losing. You never had me, I said. His jaw tightened. I know. Silence fell between us again, heavier now. From inside the gym, a slow song started playing. Something from our senior prom playlist. The irony wasn't lost on me. I used to think about what it would have been like, he said suddenly. What? If I just turned your chair around one day, told you I liked you. My heart skipped. I imagined it more times than I can count, because I didn't know who I'd be if you said yes. The vulnerability in that sentence cracked something open inside me. You think I knew who I was? I asked. He shook his head slowly. No. But you were braver than I was. I let out a small breath. I didn't feel brave. You were out before graduation. I blinked. How do you know that? I heard. From who? He looked almost sheepish. I might have asked. My pulse jumped. You asked about me? After you left, he admitted. I tried to pretend I didn't care. Didn't work. A strange mix of satisfaction and sadness washed through me. You ever look me up? I asked. His mouth twitched slightly. You really want me to answer that? I crossed my arms. Yes. Yeah. he said. More than once. I tried not to react, but something warm spread through my chest anyway. And, pressed. And you looked happy, he said. Confident. Like you didn't need anyone's permission to exist. That took work. I can tell. Another quiet stretch. So what changed? I asked finally. Why are you standing here now instead of pretending I don't exist again? He didn't hesitate this time. My dad's not in the picture anymore. That wasn't what I expected. Oh. He passed 2 years ago, Joshua said evenly. And I spent a long time angry at him for things he never even said out loud. Things I just assumed. I watched his face carefully. After that, he continued, I started asking myself what I actually wanted, not what looked good, not what made everyone comfortable. And he met my eyes fully. And the first thing that came to mind was you. You don't even know me anymore, I said. Then let me. And if this is just nostalgia, it's not. You sound very sure. I've had 10 years to think about it. The music from inside shifted again. Laughter spilled out as someone opened the doors briefly. I looked at him, really looked at him. He wasn't the untouchable golden boy anymore. He looked human, nervous, hopeful. I didn't come here for this, I admitted. I know. I came to leave early. A corner of his mouth lifted slightly. I was hoping you wouldn't. That's not subtle. I'm done being subtle. My heart was pounding so loud I was sure he could hear it. You said 5 minutes, I reminded him. He glanced at his watch, then back at me. It's been 7. I shouldn't have laughed, but I did. And the way his expression softened when I did, it felt like something shifting between us. Tell me something, he said. What? Are you seeing anyone? Direct. Bold. I swallowed. No. His exhale was almost inaudible, but I heard it. You? He shook his head. Not for a while. Why? Because I stopped pretending. My stomach flipped. And what does that mean exactly? I asked carefully. He didn't look away this time. It means you weren't the only one who figured himself out. The world seemed to tilt. Joshua. Yeah. If you kiss me right now, I said, voice barely steady. There's no pretending this is just closure. His eyes darkened. I don't want closure, he said. When we finally pulled back, we didn't separate completely. Our foreheads stayed close. His breath mixed with mine. Okay, he murmured. I let out a shaky laugh. Okay. Yeah. A faint smile tugged at his mouth. That answers that. Answers what? He looked at me like I was ridiculous. That it's not nostalgia. My heart was still racing. Joshua? I said softly. This is insane. Probably. We haven't spoken in 10 years. I know. We just kissed in a parking lot at our high school reunion. I'm aware. I pulled back slightly, searching his face. You don't look freaked out. I've imagined that kiss too many times to be freaked out. That shouldn't have made me weak. It did. Inside the gym, someone hooped loudly. The DJ switched to something upbeat again. Reality started creeping back in. We can't just pretend this fixes everything, I said. I'm not pretending. You hurt me, I added quietly. His expression shifted immediately. I know. I spent years thinking I made it all up. The looks, the tension. I thought I was delusional. You weren't. I needed you to say that back then. He nodded slowly. I know. The way he kept saying that, not defensive, not arguing, made it harder to stay guarded. I'm not that kid anymore, I said. I don't chase people who don't choose me. Let me be the one who does that. I swallowed. Why? I asked. Why me? After all this time. He didn't look away. Because you're the only person who ever made me feel like I was lying to myself. That was not what I expected. I dated girls I cared about, he continued. I tried to be what everyone expected. But there was always this disconnect. Like I was playing a role. And me. With you, I couldn't fake it. His grip tightened slightly, not possessive, just sure. When I looked at you, it wasn't something I chose. It just was. I felt heat crawl up my neck. You're making this very hard, I muttered. A faint smirk appeared. Hard how? I rolled my eyes, but my heart wasn't in it. He said quietly, serious now. I don't expect you to trust me tonight. Good. But I am not walking away from this again. The certainty in his voice made my stomach flip. You're very confident for someone who just got a second chance. It's not a second chance, he corrected. It's the first real one. That silenced me, because he wasn't wrong. High school hadn't been real. Not fully. Not honest. This was. Are you out? I asked carefully. He nodded once. A few people. Close friends. Your team. I don't play anymore. That surprised me. You quit. After college. A beat. Turns out I was playing for the wrong reasons. I studied him, trying to piece together this version of Joshua with the one I used to know. You look different, I admitted. Older. Real. That made something soften in his eyes. You too, he said. Yeah. His gaze moved over my face slowly, like he was memorizing it. You don't look like you're waiting for permission anymore. That hit somewhere deep. I'm not, I said. Good. Silence settled again, but it wasn't heavy this time. Felt charged. So what now? I asked. Now, he said slowly. I ask you to get coffee with me tomorrow. I blinked. Tomorrow? Yeah. You're not wasting time. I told you. I'm done being subtle. I tried to suppress a smile. Failed. And if I say no, I'll ask again. And if I keep saying no, he said quietly. But I won't pretend I didn't try. That did something to me, because that was all I'd ever wanted from him. To try. I took a slow breath. Coffee, I said. His eyes lit up just slightly. Yeah, coffee. Relief flashed across his face so quickly it was almost boyish. Okay, he said, nodding once. And Joshua? Yeah. If you disappear after tonight, I will never forgive you. He didn't hesitate. I'm not going anywhere. And this time, I believed him. I didn't go back inside. We stood there a little longer, like neither of us wanted to be the first to step away. Eventually, someone pushed open the gym doors again and a wave of noise spilled out, dragging reality back with it. I should probably say hi to a few more people, I said, even though I didn't want to. Joshua nodded. Yeah, same. But neither of us moved. This is weird, I muttered. In a bad way? I wasn't prepared for this way. He gave me a small smile. Me neither. That's not true. You said you've been thinking about this for 3 months. Yeah, he admitted. But thinking about it and actually standing here are two different things. I studied him for a second. You were really going to follow me if I left? He didn't even blink. Yeah. That's slightly unhinged. Probably. I couldn't help smiling. God, that smile. High school me would have melted on the spot. Adult me tried to keep it together. Tomorrow, he said, grounding us again. There's a place on Maple Street. 10 a.m. You're assuming I don't sleep in. I'm willing to risk it. I hesitated just long enough to make him nervous. 10's fine. His shoulders relaxed in a way that was almost imperceptible, but I noticed. Okay. Another pause. Andre. Yeah. Thank you for not walking away. I swallowed. You're welcome. He huffed a quiet laugh. You won't. Don't test that. He stepped back, hands sliding into his pockets. Tomorrow. He turned first this time, heading toward the entrance. Just before he reached the doors, he glanced back. Not casually. Not by accident. Like he needed to make sure I was still there. And when the doors shut behind him, I stood alone in the parking lot, heart still racing. I had come to leave quickly. Instead, I stayed another hour. I barely remember the conversations I had after that. Everything felt muted, distant. A few people mentioned seeing me outside with Joshua. One girl raised her eyebrows in a way that said, "Oh?" I ignored it. By the time I finally got home, it was almost midnight. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every second. The way he'd said he noticed everything. The way he'd admitted he asked about me. The way he'd kissed me like he wasn't afraid anymore. Part of me wanted to be reckless, to let myself fall straight back into whatever this was. But another part, the part that had spent years building self-respect, kept whispering, "Make him prove it." Around 1:17 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I stared at it for a second before opening the message. Joshua, I realized I never actually got your number tonight. Melissa gave it to me. Hope that's not weird. I snorted softly. A second message came through almost immediately. Joshua. Also, I meant what I said. I'm not disappearing. My chest tightened. I typed back slowly. Me? It's a little weird, but I'll allow it. 3 dots appeared instantly. Joshua. Fair. Then, Joshua. I keep replaying that kiss. My heart skipped. I stared at the screen longer than I should have. Me? You've had practice replaying things, apparently. There was a pause this time. A longer one. Then, Joshua. You have no idea. Heat crawled up my neck even though I was alone in my apartment. Me? Don't romanticize high school too much. A few seconds later. Joshua. I'm not romanticizing high school. I'm looking at tomorrow. That did it. That was the moment it stopped feeling like closure and started feeling like something real. I didn't sleep much that night. The next morning, I stood in front of my closet longer than I care to admit. It's ridiculous, right? We were almost 30. This wasn't prom. It was coffee. But it didn't feel like coffee. It felt like stepping into an alternate timeline. One where 17-year-old me got the chance he never thought he would. I settled on something simple. Dark jeans, light sweater, casual but not careless. At 9:52, I pulled into the parking lot of the cafe. He was already there. Of course he was. Leaning against the brick wall outside, coffee in hand, sleeves rolled up again. He spotted me the second I got out of my car. And the look on his face, it wasn't nerves. It wasn't doubt. It was certainty. He pushed off the wall, walking toward me like this wasn't complicated at all. Morning, he said. Morning. We stood there for half a second. That same charged silence from the night before settling between us. Then he handed me the coffee he'd been holding. I guessed, he said. Oat milk. No sugar. I blinked. How? You always hated overly sweet things. My throat went dry. That was 10 years ago. He shrugged lightly. Some things stick. I took the cup from him, fingers brushing his. And just like that, the air shifted again. Joshua, I said carefully, if this crashes and burns, I need you to understand something. Okay. I will survive it. He nodded slowly. I know. And I won't let you make me feel invisible again. His jaw tightened slightly. You won't, he said. It wasn't a promise thrown into the air. It felt like something he'd already decided. He reached for the cafe door, holding it open for me. After you, he said. And as I walked inside, I realized something that scared me just a little. For the first time in my life, Joshua wasn't the one I was chasing. He was the one stepping forward. And I didn't know yet whether that would save us or wreck us completely. The cafe was warm, crowded, and smelled like roasted beans and cinnamon. Normal, painfully normal, which somehow made this feel even more unreal. Joshua walked beside me to a small table near the window. He pulled out the chair across from him, not in an over-the-top way, just natural. Like he'd always done this. I sat. He didn't break eye contact. So, he said, resting his forearms on the table. Hi. I huffed a small laugh. Hi. This was different from the parking lot. Last night had been adrenaline and unfinished business. This was daylight. No music. No nostalgia haze. This was choice. You're nervous, I said. He smirked faintly. You can tell? Your right hand keeps tapping your coffee cup. He glanced down, caught himself, then looked back at me. Okay, yeah. A little. Why? Because I don't want to screw this up. The honesty hit me square in the chest. You don't even know what this is yet, I said. I know it matters. I swallowed. A barista called out an order behind us. Dishes clinked. Life went on around us. Tell me something real, I said. Not high school. Not what you think I want to hear. His expression shifted, less performative, more grounded. Okay. A beat. I dated someone for 3 years after college, he said. I wasn't expecting that. A guy? I asked quietly. He nodded. Yeah. My pulse jumped. You were serious. Very. What happened? He leaned back slightly, exhaling. He wanted someone who was already comfortable being visible. That landed heavy. I wasn't, he continued. I was out to friends, but not family. Not publicly. I kept saying I'd get there. I just needed time. And he ran out of it. Joshua nodded once. Yeah. I studied him carefully. There was no bitterness in his tone, just regret. Did you love him? I asked. Yes. The word didn't come with hesitation. And he left anyway? Yeah. Silence stretched between us. That's not the worst reason someone's ever left, I said gently. I know. His jaw tightened slightly. But it made me realize something. What? That I was still living like that kid in high school. Hiding. Waiting. I felt something in my chest loosen. I don't want to be that guy anymore, he said. And you think being with me proves that? I challenged softly. No, he shook his head immediately. Being honest does. That answer mattered. And you? He asked. Have you ever been in love? I looked down at my coffee for a second. Yeah. He didn't flinch. Twice. Serious. Serious enough. What happened? First one cheated, I said plainly. Second one, we wanted different lives. Joshua's expression darkened at the first part. You didn't deserve that. No one does. He nodded. And neither of them were scared to be seen with you, he said carefully. I met his eyes. No. A flicker of something, guilt, resolve, passed through his gaze. I won't be either, he said quietly. Joshua, I warned gently, don't make promises you're still building into. I'm not. He leaned forward slightly. I'm telling you where I am. The certainty in him felt steadier this morning. Less adrenaline. More grounded. Are you out to your family? I asked. He held my gaze. Yes. That surprised me. When? A year ago. How'd that go? He gave a small, humorless laugh. Messy. Loud. But necessary. And now they know who I am. There was something solid in the way he said it. You're different, I admitted again. So are you. Yeah, that made my breath hitch. I'm not afraid, I said quietly. I can tell. We fell into a softer silence. Not awkward, just absorbing. Outside the window, cars passed. A couple walked by holding hands. I need to ask you something, I said. Okay. If I hadn't shown up last night, what would you have done? He didn't hesitate. I would have reached out anyway. How? I've known where you work for 2 months. My eyes widened. Excuse me? He raised his hands slightly. Not in a creepy way. I looked you up. Your company profile is public. That's still slightly creepy. He winced. Fair. But I wouldn't have shown up uninvited, he added quickly. I just needed to know where you were in the world. That softened me more than it should have. You really have been thinking about this. Yeah. Why didn't you text me before the reunion? He held my gaze for a long second. Because I wanted to see your face when I said it. My stomach flipped. You wanted to see if I'd still look at you the same way. And, I asked, you did. Heat climbed up my neck. I hated you a little, I admitted. I deserved that. But I never stopped feeling something. His breath shifted. That's why I need you to understand, I continued. If we do this, I won't accept half of you. You won't get half. You say that now. Andre, the way he said my name, firm, grounded, made me look up fully. I'm not here because it's easy, he said. I'm here because you're the only person who's ever felt unfinished in my life. The words wrapped around my ribs. You don't feel unfinished to me, he added quietly. You feel like the thing I avoided. I let that sit. You avoided me pretty well, I muttered. Not internally. I tried not to smile. You're very direct now. Yeah. Is that new? Terrifyingly. I laughed, shaking my head, and for the first time since last night, it didn't feel overwhelming. Felt possible. Joshua reached across the table slowly. Not sudden, not pushing, just offering his hand. I looked at it, then at him. Then I placed my hand in his. His grip wasn't tight, just steady. I don't know where this goes, I said. I don't either. But I'm willing to find out. His thumb brushed lightly against my knuckles. Good, he said softly. And for the first time, this didn't feel like rewriting the past. It felt like finally starting something that should have happened all along. We didn't define anything that morning. No labels. No grand declarations. Just a quiet agreement to keep going. After coffee, we walked outside together. The air was crisp, sunlight cutting through the trees lining the street. It felt like the kind of morning you'd normally rush through. We didn't. We lingered on the sidewalk like we had nowhere else to be. "So," Joshua said, hands in his pockets, rocking slightly on his heels, "what does the rest of your day look like?" "I have a few emails to answer. Grocery shopping. Nothing dramatic." He nodded. "Mind if I steal you for a few hours?" I raised an eyebrow. "Steal me?" "There's a trail about 15 minutes from here. I go there when I need to think." "That's a very outdoorsy of you." He smirked. "I'm not 17 anymore." "No, you're slightly more tolerable." "Wow," I laughed, and then I surprised myself. "Okay," I said. His eyebrows lifted slightly. "Okay, let's go." The drive was quiet but not awkward. His truck smelled faintly like cedar and something clean. I watched the way his hands rested on the steering wheel, steady, grounded. We parked near a small wooded entrance. The trail wasn't crowded. Late morning sunlight filtered through the trees, casting shifting shadows along the path. We started walking side by side. For a while, we just listened to the sound of gravel under our shoes. "You know," he said eventually, "I used to come here after games in high school." I glanced at him. "After wins or losses?" "Both." "That doesn't answer much." He huffed a quiet laugh. "After wins, I'd come here to feel like it wasn't all fake. After losses, I'd come here because it was the only place I didn't feel like someone was watching." I absorbed that. "You were always being watched," I said. "Yeah. And you liked that." "I thought I did." We reached a small clearing overlooking a lake. Not dramatic, not cinematic, just peaceful. Joshua stopped walking. "I didn't like who I was back then," he admitted. "You were admired. I was performing." That word settled between us. "And with me?" I asked. "There was nothing to perform." My chest tightened. "You were quiet," he continued, "but not small." I looked at him. "You never tried to impress anyone," he said. "You just existed." "That's not how it felt." "I know." We stood there in silence for a moment, the water rippling softly below. "I need to say something," I said. "Okay. If this turns into you chasing some idea of redemption, it won't." "Let me finish." He nodded. "I don't want to be the guy who fixes your past." His jaw flexed slightly. "You're not," he said firmly. "You're not a redemption arc. Then what am I?" He stepped closer, not invading, just intentional. "You're the person I didn't have the courage to choose." That was dangerously close to exactly what I needed to hear. "And now?" I asked quietly. "Now I'm choosing you." The air shifted again. "You don't get to choose me alone," I said. "I know. And I won't be patient forever." "I don't expect you to be." The confidence in him didn't feel arrogant. Felt earned. We started walking again, slower this time. Halfway back to the truck, our hands brushed. Neither of us pulled away. The second time it happened, he didn't hesitate. He laced his fingers through mine. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a statement to the world. It was just simple, and it made my heart slam into my ribs. I glanced at him. He didn't look down at our hands. He just kept walking, thumb brushing lightly against my knuckles. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah. You look like you're thinking." "I am. Good thoughts. Terrifying ones." A faint smile tugged at his mouth. "That's fair." We reached the truck, but neither of us let go immediately. "Can I ask you something selfish?" he said. "Sure. Stay. Stay. Not forever," he clarified quickly. "Just don't pull back because you're scared this could be real." My throat went dry. "I don't pull back because I'm scared," I said softly. "I pull back because I've learned to." He studied me carefully. "I'm not going to make you regret not pulling back," he said. "You can't promise that." "No," he admitted. "But I can promise I won't disappear." There it was again. The thing that mattered most. "I hated how you made me feel invisible," I said. His grip tightened slightly. "You won't feel that way again with me." I searched his face for hesitation. I didn't find any. And standing there, in the middle of a quiet trail with Joshua's arms around me, I realized something that made my chest ache. I didn't want closure. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want to prove anything. I just wanted this to be real. He rested his chin lightly against the top of my head. Hey, he murmured. Yeah, I'm really glad you showed up last night. I closed my eyes briefly. Me too. And for the first time, it didn't feel like we were chasing what could have been. It felt like we were finally brave enough to see what could be. That afternoon, he didn't drop me off at my car right away. We drove aimlessly for a bit. Windows cracked. Music low. Neither of us in a rush to re-enter normal life. So, I said eventually, are we pretending this is casual? Joshua glanced at me, one eyebrow lifting slightly. Do you want it to be? No. Then we're not. Direct. Again. You're very different from the guy who couldn't turn my chair around, I said. He exhaled slowly. That guy wasted enough time. And this guy knows exactly what he wants. The way he said it, steady, grounded, made something settle inside me. He pulled into a quiet overlook near the edge of town. Not dramatic, just a place with a decent view of the skyline. He turned off the engine but didn't get out. I need to ask you something real, he said. Okay. If this gets hard, because it probably will, are you going to shut me out? The question caught me off guard. I don't shut people out. You do when you're hurt. I narrowed my eyes slightly. You don't know that. I saw it in high school. I laughed once, soft. You didn't see anything in high school. I saw more than you think. Silence stretched. I don't run, I said finally. But I don't beg either. I'm not asking you to. Good. He shifted in his seat, turning more fully toward me. I'm not interested in something secret, he said. Not now. I held his gaze. Meaning if we do this, we do it publicly. I take you out. I introduce you. I don't flinch. That hit deeper than the kiss had. You're sure you're ready for that? I asked quietly. He didn't hesitate. Yes. Your family? They already know. And they're fine with it? They don't have to be fine, he said calmly. They just have to deal. That confidence wasn't teenage rebellion. It was grown. Why now? I asked again, softer this time. Because I already know what it feels like to lose you once, he said. I'm not doing it again. My chest tightened painfully. You never had me, I whispered. I could've. That wasn't arrogance. It was regret. Andre, he continued, voice lower now. If you tell me to slow down, I will. If you tell me you need space, I'll give it. But I'm not pretending this is small. It doesn't feel small, I admitted. It isn't. We sat there for a moment, just breathing the same air. I spent a long time thinking you'd forgotten about me, I said quietly. Never. I convinced myself I imagined everything. You didn't. You hurt me. I know. And I won't let you do that again. You won't have to. There was no defensiveness in him. No excuses. Just accountability. And that was new. I studied his face, really studied it. The scar near his chin. The faint crease between his brows. The softness in his eyes that hadn't been there at 17. You're not chasing a fantasy? I asked. No. Not trying to rewrite your teenage years? No. Then what are you doing? I'm choosing you, he said again. Something inside me finally stopped fighting. He did something small, but it meant everything. He posted a photo. Not dramatic. Not staged. Just a picture of 2 coffee cups on a wooden table. My hand in the corner of the frame. Caption: 10 years late is still on time. My heart stuttered. Within minutes, started rolling in. Comments. A few surprised messages. He didn't delete it. He didn't edit it. He didn't hesitate. My phone buzzed seconds later. Joshua, you okay with that? I stared at the screen, then at the photo again. Me? Yeah. Another message came through. Joshua, I'm not hiding you. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for him to notice me. He already had. I went to the reunion hoping to slip in and out unnoticed. Instead, I walked away with the one thing I'd convinced myself I'd imagined. Not the fantasy. Not the memory. The choice. Joshua ignored me in high school because he was afraid. Now, he was the one standing in the open. And this time, I wasn't invisible. I was chosen.